All right. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Let's go. Hey, what's going on? We got the second episode of the Gamma Wave podcast. Oh, yeah. With that music. Feel the music. Oh, yeah. We're back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We have a new episode of the Gamma Wave podcast. I'm very excited. I'm just excited to join you all in this conversation. I've kind of teased it for a while, and we're finally here. It's Wednesday, September 24th, the day of the recording. Hopefully, I can get this out to you in the next day or two. And we are, well, before I get into the topic of the show, I just want to say if you haven't watched the first or the last episode, you're gonna want to pause this, open up a new browser, just make sure you go to the channel to listen to the other episode, because the element, or I guess the theme, is sort of similar. In the last episode, we talked about protecting your energy in a way, and in this episode, it's sort of similar because we're talking about setting up boundaries. Yes, we're talking about boundaries. I a little inside joke. I'm into basketball, and when you hear me say like we're talking about fill in the blank, that is a reference to Allen Iverson. That we're talking about practice. Come on, we're talking about practice. A very famous clip. So in this video, we're going to be talking about setting boundaries. So yeah, so welcome to a new episode. This is your host, Caleb Wilson. I got to get used to introducing myself. I think the last episode we went like a whole 5 or 7 minutes before I introduce myself. So I'm your host. This is the Gamma Wave Show, presented by Empowerment Essentials. And yeah, I'm excited because we're talking about Sinners, the movie that came out this year and took the world by storm, grossed a lot of money in the box office, captivated a lot of audiences across the world, including me. And first, I just want to kind of talk about some things I enjoyed about that movie, produced by Ryan Coogler. So, man, one thing I appreciate about that style of movie making is it feels like something you can just go back and watch time after time after time. And I can't say that about a lot of movies. The movie that comes to mind for me is Batman: The Dark Knight with Christian Bale and Heath Ledger, Morgan Freeman. That is a movie I can just go back and watch over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I feel the same way about Sinners for similar reasons, but also brand new reasons, right? You have the cinematography, the cinematic experience that was just like really unique, one of one. Really appreciated that. The way you just kind of settle into the movie and you just along for the ride, and then you want to ride it all over again because it was so good. So everything from the cultural perspective, how they set up the movie from the historical perspective, putting a fresh, hopefully you've seen the movie by now, but putting a fresh perspective on, a vampire story. And for me, I appreciate music, and one thing I can say I really enjoyed was the music. And I just remember the first time watching that movie, and I was like, man, these songs rock. I think the composer we're looking at, his name is Ludwig Göransson. And yeah, he put his foot in that music. He put his soul in that music, and I felt it. And I love that the theater that we went to, they didn't skimp on the soundtrack volume. So you can really feel the drums, you can feel the guitar, you can feel the bass, you can feel everything. And I think that just amplified my music experience because I seen it more than once in theaters, and there's a one theater that they didn't really amp up the soundtrack, and I thought it was kind of missing. So I'm glad I went to go see it with the full musical backing. So so yeah, definitely a really enjoyable film. What are some of the things that you liked about the movie? Just let me know in the comments, and let's kind of chat about that. Like, what are some of the things that you liked about the movie Sinners? What do you think about the way they kind of filmed the movie, like the from like a cinematic angle, music, the acting, the stories. Oh man, there's that's another thing about the movie Sinners is not only did it take you on like a typical, or not like a typical horror film, but it was like your an original twist to a horror film, and you have like that range of emotions. I feel like the movie Sinners also gave spotlights to different characters in very honest and rich ways. And it's not like it took a long time to develop that, which is something I really appreciate in the storytelling. Is they're able to get in and out of these moments and set them up in a way where it feels like you spent enough time understanding a different character's like backstory, their challenges, their struggles, their pain points. Especially when you talk about Delta Slim, he to me, I think he was one of those characters that stole the show of the movie a few times. So I really appreciated his character, played by Delroy Lindo. He did an awesome job with that character. So so from that emotional journey, and man, the end of the movie when I believe it's Smoke, he's having that crossover moment, and you know his loved ones are on the other side waiting for him, and he's getting ready to like cross over. I thought that moment was so beautiful. I think that's one of the things I really appreciated about that movie, because you feel like every character had, they were written from like start to finish in a way that makes you appreciate like the whole journey along the way, and everything in between. So okay, that's enough about the movie Sinners. But again, I want to hear from you. What are some of those favorite parts for you? What characters did you enjoy? I also enjoyed Cornbread too. Cornbread was funny. Um, and then if we're just being completely honest, that part where he's going to, answer the call of nature. When you hear the what's his face, Remick and company, they're in the background like, "Is that Cornbread? Oh, there's friendship and love or something." I would have been gone. There is no way I would have. I'm not going out like that. I'm not going out like that. For him to like stop midstream and just be like, "What was that?" No, brother, run. Don't look back. Don't pause for anything. Just go. But that was one of the funnier parts. Like first time viewing it, I was like, "Oh heck nah. Oh, we can't be here. Oh," and you can see the eyes in the background. So the creepy factor of the movie definitely up there. So okay, let's kind of transition into Gamma Vision. I think I've rambled on long enough about what I guess you can tell I really love the movie. But let's transition over to today's Gamma Vision. And I don't have a drop for that, but I will at some point. But let's do a transition here. I'll probably put it in post. So today's Gamma Vision is inspired by the movie Sinners. And so a question I have is, okay, so for me, I have pretty good pattern recognition, especially when it comes to different movies. Like I can probably figure it out within the first, half or maybe earlier of the movie, and kind of go from there. So I picked up pretty early that the people that were in their different dwelling spaces had to give permission to the vampires before they could come in and do harm. I picked up on that pretty early. How early did you pick up on that? in the movie. So let me know in the comments. Be honest. This is a safe place to share. It's not a competition. I know we're all pretty competitive, but it's a safe place to share. But for me, I picked that up pretty early in the movie, and I was like, okay, like they have to give permission for them to enter. And I thought that was an interesting premise because, looking at our gamma vision and setting up boundaries, you have to, I think it's important that we understand the purpose and importance of maintaining our own dwelling and maintaining the boundaries that we have in our own personal lives. I think that's super important. This not only applies to just people, but also different situations. Where are we championing the boundaries? Where are we defending the boundaries? So I have a little list here. So what are some things that we think that come to mind that we should keep out of our lives? For me, one thing that comes up, I think, a low-hanging fruit one would be, toxic people. I think toxic people have a tendency to be a net negative as far as interactions and the impact that they have not only on you, but what you're working towards. A lot of us, again, we're working towards the higher good for ourselves and being the best that we can be. And if we have people in our circles, in our feeds, wherever we're having these interactions that are a net negative, not only does that take away from us, but it also takes away from our goals. So again, maintaining those boundaries. Some other things would be, negative people, the doubters. Sometimes some of you and some of us, we're working towards new things. We're working towards things that we've never set sights on before, or maybe we're approaching it with an intensity that we haven't before. We can't let negative people, spoil what we're working towards. And while it may be kind of tough or uncomfortable to let those people, go in our lives, or to maintain a certain boundary, like, hey, like I'm not going to entertain you at this capacity. Like, you can only get so much of my time or energy. That's going to be something really key. We're all working towards those goals, so we need to have people that are net positive. They're either multiplying or adding versus subtracting and dividing. I would also say keeping those boundaries from people that are faithless, hopeless, kind of mindset. For me, and I'm pretty sure for a lot of you listening, we're big dreamers. I don't think you're listening to this podcast if you're not a person that is dreaming big. And when you have people around you that, like, they don't see the vision, they don't have the hope that, this is, possible. Like, I can lose, 25, 50, 75, 100 pounds, or I can, get my fitness level up. I can improve my nutrition. I can start a new business. I can, pursue those goals and ideas that I always had. But you have people around you that are like, really? You're gonna go after that? I don't think that's gonna work. Boundary, boom. Just like Anne's character in the movie, she was really quick to notice and call out, like, you're a hate. That's what she called him in the movie. Like, you're a hate. You're a hater. I'm gonna say that right now. Like, you're a hater. Yeah, go ahead and step to the side. You have to do that in your own way in your life to maintain that progress towards your vision. So some other type of people that you could potentially, weed out your circle. I would say flaky people, unreliable people. I feel like that's another one. People that come with a lot of draining type of emotion. So you spend time with them and it's just like it's really draining for you. Those are other people you want to, again, set those boundaries. So that's today's gamma vision. To bring up another basketball reference, do you guys remember? I think his name is Dikembe Mutombo. Really great uh, basketball player. I think he's a Hall of Famer. He's famous and notorious for his finger wag because people try to meet him at the rim, try to lay it up, put a floater up or dunk, and he was very great at contesting shots and blocking. And you'd always get that finger wag, no, 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 no. So we have to have that same type of attitude that we're not just going to allow anything into our, you know, into our space. So that's today's gamma vision. I want you to take a moment to think about how you can identify the hates that are around your environment or in your presence, the haters, and how are you going to set up those boundaries? How are you going to move forward in a way that you're establishing, protecting your energy and another form of protecting your energy? I feel like when you grant the permission, you may have your own list, but I feel like when you grant permission to those things that are not for you, not for your mission, not for your purpose, not for your vision, that's going to set you back. Not only externally, what you grant permission to, but even internally too. The things that you entertain from a internal perspective could also be, it can also compromise what you're working towards. And I'll touch on that more in the Haki grounding section. So the next segment we're going to talk about is the Our Daily Senzu Bean. So let's head on over to Nutrition Alley. Let me know what you think of my my Our Daily Senzu Bean. I can't even get my words right. It's staying in the edit. Let me know what you think about Our Daily Senzu Bean segment and the Our Daily Senzu Bean drop. I'm gonna play it one more time because I think it's so great. Back in the day when I used to watch Dragon Ball Z, that that sound was so like poignant. It would just like stick in your mind for that episode. Senzu beans wouldn't often appear, but when they did, they were definitely memorable. So how can we power up with our daily senzu bean right now? So since we're talking about the movie Sinners, it took place in the South, and I feel like you can't mention, those areas of the world and not talk about this particular food. It's really nutritious, and we're talking about collard greens. Collard greens are the nutrition food or the nutrition topic for today. And going to kind of start and kind of give you an overview of some of the benefits and kind of go from there. So, collard greens, they're rich in vitamin A, rich in vitamin K and C. It's also going to be full of fiber, very fibrous. They're best to be enjoyed in the winter and the spring. They also have a lot of calcium. And with your collard greens, 1 cup provides several times the recommendation for vitamin K. Some of the benefits include bone support, immune support, eye health support, detoxing, and heart health. Some of the uses, so some of the ways that you can enjoy it would include you can boil it, you can simmer it, you can add it to soups, stir fries, pasta. You can also saute them. One thing to note about collard greens is that they are considered a bitter. And a bitter is a particular food that's higher in sulfur containing compounds, which gives it its bitter taste. And they're actually really great for your liver and your organs. It's going to help again with that detoxing. Your liver, it helps with the detoxing process. And if you can support the liver in doing its job, the liver will help keep you functioning at the level you're supposed to be. So make sure you get your collard greens in. Collard greens, again, high in fiber. And we talked about fiber a little bit last time. The fiber that we talked about last time were the beans. They're more starchy. And this particular fiber source is what we call a non starchy source. And so you're probably thinking, or maybe you've heard of those terms before, starchy versus non starchy. We're going to go into a little bit of nutrition alley. So uh, don't get scared. Stay next to the registered dietitian. I know this alley can be a little intimidating, but if you stick with me, I promise you'll make it to the other side. So when we look at the starchy carb or the starchy carb, a starch just means a food or particular carbohydrate that's higher in sugar. Therefore, it will be more energy dense compared to the non starchy com- counter counterpart. The non-starchy food or the non-starchy carb is a lower sugar containing carbohydrate. So both are needed. You can't, well, you can. I'm going to I'm going to encourage that you try to have a balance between your starchy and your non-starchy carbs. The balance is really important. If you were to rely on all your starchy foods for your main carbohydrates, it could impact your blood sugar in a undesired way. Also, your triglycerides, things like that. I'm not giving out full medical advice. Seek your primary care for that, or um, your medical team for that. This is just general education for entertainment purposes only. Then you also have your non-starchy foods, which yes, they are lower in calories, but being lower in calories doesn't necessarily make it the best. And the reason why is because of this. So imagine, you're working out, and I asked you to pick between two foods to fuel up. You have about an hour and a half to eat something to give you a little bit of fuel before your workout. I give you two options. I give you a bowl of collard greens, or I give you a bowl of pinto beans. Which one's going to give you the most energy for your workout? Give you a couple seconds to choose. So if you said collard greens would give you the most energy, you're wrong. So, and you're probably thinking like, why is that the wrong answer? I thought they were healthy. You're talking about how healthy they are, and I'm like, yes, they are healthy. However, for the purpose of providing the most energy with the least amount of volume, collard greens are not the go-to, because when you work out, you're burning energy, you're burning calories, and you get those calories from food. And to do it the most efficient way, you're going to need a food source that packs a lot with a little. And that's where we have the beans as the other option. You get so much energy packed into a smaller quantity volume that can help fuel your fitness activity. So again, that's a little walk down nutrition alley. Hopefully that wasn't too scary for you. I didn't lose you in the weeds. Um, so you have a couple different foods that we've talked about now. How have you been rethinking your grocery list and rethinking your recipes and adding some of these foods to your meal pattern? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what you're doing. So that was our daily sensu bean. I just had a thought right now, thinking about granting permission for certain things to enter, and some things not to enter. So again, talking about the liver function and the whole detoxing benefit of the collard greens, that's also another parallel. By eating these healthy foods that have these benefits to help improve the detoxification process, those different uh, toxins that make their way into our body and our body is naturally able to defend against them. That's another parallel. That's the takeaway message here. So now we're gonna head over to our final segment and bring this show to a close afterwards. We're talking, or I guess we're moving on to our Haki grounding segment. So, our Haki grounding segment today is another personal story. Usually, I'm gonna share some type of personal story. Um, and I've been talking with my hands a lot today. I'm gonna put my hands back down. I wanted to share another personal story on, just a challenge. And so for this particular challenge, again, earlier I said there's times that we have to defend against or set those boundaries against like external forces and things. This time, this is about even internal, thoughts and feelings that really don't align with your vision, your purpose, what you're working towards, your goal. So there was a particular time in my life where I was working towards gaining specific skills. Um, and for me, I'm a person that really believes in myself. I'm not going to count myself out. I'm going to give myself, the odds to do what I need to do and come out successful. And usually that works. This time, I can say now that we're at this part of the journey that I I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve. But before we get to that part, I want to back up a little bit. The the start of it was, hey, I can do this. I'm a quick learner. Just got to apply myself and, try to really understand what I'm working with here. But slowly, over the matter of days to weeks, the growth wasn't really happening at the rate that I was satisfied with, which really left me doubting at, the imposter syndrome that starts to kind of poke around in your mind. And you really wonder, like, man, did everything I accomplished before this point, was that fraudulent? And you begin to wonder, like, oh man, like, am I fraudulent at what I'm doing in life or what I'm trying to work towards in this particular area? Sometimes it feels like that. Have you ever felt like that where you worked on something and you really wanted it? You really wanted to acquire this new skill or this achievement. And as you're working towards it, it's not coming at the pace that you want to. And you begin to question, who you are and what you've been able to do, down to your very core of like who you are. So, like I said, weeks are going by, and this now I'm starting to get this like, I guess you would describe it. I guess I'll describe it as like not the most positive way of thinking. I would say the negative self talk has crept in and it's there. It's definitely it's booked the room for however long. It doesn't have a checkout date. So let's put it that way. And so I'm battling putting my effort and concentration towards what I'm working towards, but also entertaining these negative thoughts, these thoughts that aren't really encouraging me to believe in myself. And so at a certain point, I realized like, hey, you've been in tough moments before, and you've pulled through. And there's a video I'll plug right here. I think it's called "Getting Through Difficult Times" or something, but I'll tag it right here because it kind of connects to the story. But I have this song in my head and in my heart that was basically, I will get there. I will get there somehow. And I just kind of let that stay in my head on repeat until I was able to encourage myself. And I think that's the takeaway for me personally is sometimes you may not reach the outcome you want, but I think it's how you get to the outcome, good or bad, that shows more about your character. So that is the hockey grounding segment for today. So this is the end of the podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, if you have gotten something out of this, please be sure to like, to share. If you're not subscribed, definitely subscribe. And of course, let's chat in the comments. So until next time, take care. I'll see you later in the next episode of the Gamma Wave.